What is going on, everyone? Welcome into Bayou Bengals football. So, I think LSU coming off a tough loss to Alabama, and I think what's frustrating about LSU is how bad their defense is. You know, I said what did I say last week or the week before last? LSU has an average defense. I think saying they have an average defense, I think, is being very forgiving. I mean, this is just a bad defense, and I think it's what's really frustrating about this for LSU is, you know, if someone told me heading into this season that LSU was going to struggle this badly defensively, I would have said they were crazy. I would have thought, you know, at very least this would be a solid to good defense, but for it to be a poor defense is just really frustrating. It's really sad that it's almost like they're wasting this. The defense being this bad, you feel like it's really wasting the potential. Or it's sad that their defense is this bad and they've wasted a season where they've had this good of offense. Because when you have this good of offense, if you just have it, like if LSU was just, if their defense was performing just at like a solid level, if they were just like a little above average, that would be, LSU could be undefeated or have one loss now. But it's just, they're, as bad as their defense is, or as good as their offense is, it's not good enough to overcome how bad their defense is, which is really frustrating because, I mean, you look at LSU, and I touched on this before. If you look at their team, you look at Harold Perkins, Mason Smith, just those two guys alone, you think that's enough for this defense to at least be pretty good, solid. But no, you know, Mason Smith's underperformed. Harold Perkins has been pretty good, but it's kind of disappeared in some games. I know the Florida State game, he was playing mostly off ball, lined up between the tackles, so he was not really in his effective of role that game. But even so, other games he's just not really looked like the dominant player from last year. Mason Smith certainly has not looked like the guy from 2021. So, you know, that's hurt them a little bit. Secondary's been a mess. I thought Toviano looked all right, but he's just a young guy, and this guy who, you know, they hit him on some slants, you know, change of direction stuff, lateral movement, you know, or breaking in, cut, you know, that's just really not really Toviano's game. Toviano, I think, actually is more of a safety. That's why thought it was weird they're playing him at corner. He's not a guy that you really want to move, that you want to ask to move at laterally consistently. He's a guy who I think is more of a straight liner. So I think safety's a better fit for him later on. But you're obviously all right at safety right now with Burns and Sam, even though Burns obviously hasn't really played, hasn't been anything to write home about this year. But yeah, secondary has just been worse than expected. Linebackers have been worse than expected. Defensive line has been, underwhelming, to say the least, and they just don't rush the passer. Not only does LSU not rush the passer, they just cannot, they get no push in the middle, which is disappointing considering, I know Wingo's out for the rest of the year, but considering they had Mason Smith. So yeah, that's disappointing. The offense has been fantastic. It's really sad that the defense is kind of really, the defense has performed so bad that it's kind of wasted a really good offense. You know, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, Kyron Lacey, three good receivers, you know, two really good elite receivers, a good running back, and elite offensive line. It's really too bad. But yeah, LSU sits with 3 losses. They've now lost to Ole Miss, Alabama, and Florida State. 3 really good opponents, nonetheless, 2 of them with 1 loss, 1 team undefeated. So I guess if you're going to lose, you might as well lose to the 3 best teams. And it appears those 3 games they've lost were to the 3 best teams that they've played. So I guess if you're going to lose to quality opponents. So Ole Miss, Alabama, and Florida State are the 3 losses for LSU. Still have to play Florida, still have to play A&M, Georgia State. So, yeah, the season for LSU is starting to feel a lot like last year. By last year, I mean, you know, a good team. I think whoever they'll play in the bowl game, I think they'll crush. I think this is, you know, like last year, I think LSU, a team they have with their offensive line and the players that they have on offense, you know, they get a team that's a bad they get a team that's doesn't match up well against them, I think they could really just explode on them and put a lot of points on them like Purdue. Because you look at Purdue was a pretty good team last year. I know they lost in the Big Ten championship, but Purdue was just a bad matchup for LSU because they could not match LSU at the line of scrimmage, and they had no one that could cover the receivers. They had no athletes in the secondary. So Purdue, even though they were a solid team, it was just a horrible matchup for LSU. But LSU, the way they're built to really expose weak opponents. Like you look at Mississippi State, you look at Missouri's not a weak opponent, but Missouri just doesn't. They're not. They're a good, solid team, but they just they have some weaknesses. They're not. I would say Missouri wasn't the best matchup, so I say they were able to expose Missouri a little bit. I would say they were because Missouri doesn't have elite playmakers on the skill position, so that kind of was able to Missouri was not able to really take advantage of LSU's secondary. So I think, Missouri was a good matchup for LSU, but even so, Missouri put up quite a bit of points on them. But LSU, tough season, obviously. Chance to get some wins here down the stretch. I mean, sitting currently at 6-3, you could finish, 9, 9-3. I think 9-3, the way this season is, as bad as this defense is, I think that's at least a respectable mark. I think getting to, if they finish this year 10-3, then you really compare this season to last year. But you finish this season 10-3 and you're saying, okay, it was you gave Brian Kelly good good first year, pretty good second year, a little disappointing. You kind of give him a pass for this year, but now you're heading into year 3 where you're kind of like, are we gonna? Is this more so who we are, or is this or can we build off this? I think that's the main question heading into year 3. Is this more so who we are, or can we build off this? So that's what Brian Kelly this coaching staff, this LSU team has to decide in year 3. Is this who we are, or can we build off this? So, I think 2024, I think, is going to say a lot about Brian Kelly and this LSU program. Now, people could say that this year was that year, but I think, this was, I don't know, I guess I shouldn't, I'm not going to go around the road of making excuses for Brian. I would say this year was really a telling year, but I think, year 3, obviously, there can be outliers, but year 3 really, I think, is when you see a coach in his program. You really see the identity of the program and I think that is the ultimate kind of stamp of what the program is going to be. So I guess where I'm getting at is, Matt House is going to have to be let go. Seems like a good guy, seems like a positive guy, seems like players respect him, seems like he's shown the ability to recruit. But this, Matt House has got to go. It's just a bad, you look at the LSU defense with the talent they have schematically, there's something off here. Not that Brian Kelly doesn't have his fingerprints on it, but Matt House they're going to have to move on from him because, obviously the defense, issues with the defense falls on the head coach, but immediately falls on the defensive coordinator since he is responsible for that side of the football. So Brian Kelly, I think he has earned the privilege now to move on from Matt House, prove he can get a new defensive coordinator, and then prove in year 3 that they can finally be that conference title contender. Obviously, they were last year, but they were not able to do that. But in year 3, opportunity to prove, to prove to people that you can make mistakes. You can overachieve in year 1, make mistakes in year 2, but get everything corrected in year 3. So I think that is what's going to be key for Brian Kelly in year 3 to show that year 1 wasn't a fluke, year 2 was a disappointment, but hey, look, I'm a good enough coach where in year 3 we can fix the issues. yeah, losing Mekhi Wingo is going to be a really tough blow for LSU. Wingo, such an impactful guy, can play a lot of snaps, high motor. Him and Mason Smith was a good combo. You saw in the Florida State game at times how dominant he could be. I think he's a guy that potentially, I think with that injury, I don't think he'll go first round, but I think he'll be one of those guys that's second, third round. A lot of people will talk about, if he wasn't injured, he was on pace to really make an impact for LSU and kind of put him in position to be a first round pick. So I think there will be that discussion come draft time if he chooses to declare. I think he is eligible to return for LSU. I'm not 100% sure, though. But, Wingo will be an interesting guy. I think LSU, the secondary, can they fix? I guess not completely repair. The secondary has really been disappointing, but I think next year, can we just show some signs of improvement? Even if the secondary is not, I don't think it doesn't have to be a night and day difference, but can we show some signs of improvement? Because obviously going the transfer portal route hasn't necessarily worked out tremendously well. I mean, I guess year one you could argue it was fine with Gardner and in Converse, but this year it just has not really worked out. Alexander's been up and down. Chestnut's not is he even with the team anymore, and then Burns just has been disappointing. Greg Brooks has dealt with a health concern. Andre Sam has not really been the player I thought, even though he's been okay. He just has not been. He's not been great by any means. So, secondary, a combination of, Major Burns just, being who he is. A guy he's not bad but not good. Andre Sam, a guy that's made some plays but has not been dominant. And then Zy Alexander, same thing. Made some plays, but not been dominant. Chestnut, disappointing. Ashton Stamps played some snaps, but even when he's out there, he looks a little bit like he's not fully confident in what he's doing. And then Terrence Welsh. Welsh made some tackles, but also there's kind of some lackluster effort, and I think he's limited from an athletic ability standpoint. And then, Whit Weeks has played well, but he's young. Omar Spates hasn't quite been the guy we thought in the transfer portal. So I think LSU kind of some swings and misses in the transfer portal, which is too bad. I think at running back, Logan Diggs certainly was a hit. And Logan Diggs was the one transfer I was really questioning. I thought Diggs... I don't know. I just was a little skeptical of Diggs for whatever reason, even though, I guess I thought that, I saw the vision and the patience. I didn't know he had the explosiveness and burst to just pick up the chunk yardage that he has done this year. He's just done a fantastic job of doing that. And then Brian Thomas, I didn't know Brian Thomas had the upside and the potential to go off like he has. So, Brian Thomas, Logan Diggs, two guys I was wrong about as far as guys that can really go off, be a difference makers, and just explode in a given game and be the guy. So, wrong about Brian Thomas, Logan Diggs. Looks like I'm wrong about Zy Alexander for the opposite reason. I thought Alexander was going to be really good, and he just he's been, I guess he's been okay, but just has not been good. So, I think, but Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, Kyron Lacey, they've been so fun to watch this year. Mason Taylor, a little disappointing this year, had some drops against Alabama. Hopefully he turns things around. Matt House probably going to have to move on from him. The offense, though, no complaints, really. Mike Denbrock did a good job, not only play calling, but really just, really building off his promise of getting the ball to receivers and getting them in a position where they can turn upfield and pick up yardage and make plays. So between those two things, those are two things that I think Denbrock, the OC, has done a really good job. Play calling and getting the ball in the receiver's hands where they can turn upfield and make plays. Those two things have really been crucial to the success of the LSU offense. So, yeah, I'm going to wrap at that. Thanks for tuning in to Bayou Bengals. Make sure to stay tuned for more episodes and clips from the show. Till next time, peace.